So hello, everyone. My name is Dan Sullivan. I'm the head of partnerships at Cuseum. And first of all, just want to say thank you for being here today, joining us for this conversation. Hopefully you find yourself safe and healthy. For those who are unfamiliar with Cuseum, we work with cultural organizations and higher education institutions to help them increase engagement with their members and alumni using tools like digital alumni engagement cards. For those that have already joined us for a few of our alumni hour conversations, thanks for being here. We're excited to welcome you back. So a couple quick housekeeping items. While you're here, please take a moment in the chat to introduce yourself, what institution you're joining from, maybe a little bit about your role. We'd love to hear who's joining. Secondly, if you have questions, you can use the Q&A functionality down at the bottom of the screen. We'll address them probably throughout the conversation today, but if you see a question that you like, give it that little thumbs up. It'll drive those up to the top so we can entertain them and cover it with our panelists. Our last group of Alumni Hour panelists had this great idea of sharing a kind of community document where people could put some best practices and some ideas together. You're kind of all in this great position of not competing with one another. So feel free to take a look at that document, share an idea or two, or maybe you can get a little bit of inspiration from that. And you'll be able to see that in the chat as well. There'll be a link to it in a moment. Last couple things before we jump into this. So the Cuseum team is actually putting together an ebook on changes in alumni relations and engagement. And we're excited to be including insights from different industry professionals in the higher education space. So we're actually going to be opening up a poll in a little while on this webinar with a few questions about your experiences and your thoughts. So if you want to take a couple seconds, you can do that. We'd appreciate that. And as you'll see on the poll, if you want to elaborate a little bit further, you can let us know right there. We can, have a further discussion around that. All that being said, on to the webinar. So it has been we were just talking to the panelists, whirlwind of a year, crazy year. Universities, alumni associations of all different shapes and sizes have faced substantial disruptions to operations, engagement, strategy, advancement opportunities, you name it. So as a result, many of them are planning, an end of year push to really drive awareness, engagement, and to support their alumni as well. So I think the big question is, how do you close out this year strong? What kind of end of year engagement and development strategy is going to work, as we approach these last 6 weeks of 2020? So we've got a great panel today. We've got Liz King, the Executive Director of Resource Development at Penn State Alumni Association, Joshua Jones, the Director of Alumni Relations at University of South Carolina Upstate, Robin Warde, the Executive Director of Office of Alumni and Parent Engagement at Bryant University, and Sam Egan, the Assistant Director of Alumni and Parent Relations at University of Puget Sound. So to all of our panelists, thank you for being here. We're going to start with some quick introductions, go around the room, give a quick overview of your role, your team, and your organization. So I'm going to hand the mic to Liz, if you can just kick us off.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. As Dan mentioned, I am the Executive Director of Resource Development at the Penn State Alumni Association, and my team is responsible for a lot of the revenue-generating programs that happen for the Alumni Association. We handle membership and business development, so affinity partnerships and sponsorships, and then a few other smaller kind of niche revenue generating programs. And the Penn State Alumni Association is just under 70 staff members. And so we are a mighty team and, really look for opportunities to weave things for our revenue generating programs. I would say very, very focused on membership throughout everything that we do in the Alumni Association.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. And Sam.
Yeah. Well, hello, and thanks, everyone. So I'm from the University of Puget Sound. We're a small liberal arts university in Tacoma, Washington. I work in the Office of Alumni and Parent Relations, and really we are sort of the do-everything group when it comes to events and engagement on campus. We host the regional clubs for our alumni groups. We do our affinity groups. We host the Student Alumni Association, reunion, commencement, homecoming. I think that we kind of get the idea of what we do. Really, our focus is how do we bring our alumni back and get them excited about what we're doing currently, get them engaged with giving, and really bring them back and give them the sense of, Puget Sound is with you forever, and we're here to help spread that word.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. And Joshua Jones.
Yes, good afternoon and greetings from Spartanburg, South Carolina. I am Joshua Jones, and I'm humbly serving as the Director of Alumni Relations here at the University of South Carolina Upstate. And within alumni relations, we're actually housed within university advancement. We are a team that is strong and mighty. I'm not going to say we're small in numbers because we make up for any physical beings by what we do. So I'm very proud of that. And I always want to start off by saying I work with the best team out there. So those that are attending part of my team, huge shout out because I couldn't do it without you. But university advancement, we are what we like to at least believe that we're the heartbeat of the university. We are the conduits to all external relationships for the university. And what we try to do is build meaningful relationships, not only with our students, but our community at large. And I just play a large role in being the representative of nearly 30,000 living alumni.
Fantastic. Thank you for being here. And last but not least, Robin Warde.
Well, thanks. I love those descriptions. Boy, all of those descriptions match what we do at Bryant. So thanks, Dan. Thanks, everybody else. As Dan said, I'm Robin Warde. I'm Executive Director of Alumni and Parent Engagement at Bryant. I don't say that very often. It's such a mouthful, but I've actually been working in higher ed for 36 years. So I'm sure I'm the senior member of the team here. Half of those were in corporate and foundation relations at a number of schools. But my heart is with what I do with alumni engagement, alumni relations. So Bryant is a small comprehensive university in Rhode Island. We have about 3,500 undergraduate students, 500 graduate students, and 50,000 alumni worldwide. I have a team of 5, including myself, and we run the gamut, just like everybody else said. We do all the alumni programming, we do our communications, if it's social media, if it's Student Alumni Association, we do it all, and we measure it all. So we'll talk about that later. On the parent side, we also staff and create programs for our Parents Leadership Council. And I personally carry a small fundraising portfolio. I've been here long enough that I handle Asia, Latin America, California, and Chicago. Do you think I handpicked those? So I'm really happy to be here, happy to share what we're doing. And I really am happy that we have a balance of large and small institutions, because I think that's important.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were super excited about this panel. We've got a great spread here. So thank you for being here. 2 quick things. When it comes to the questions, I'm going to ask our panelists a variety of questions. Folks that are watching, feel free to jump in the chat, share some answers, ask each other questions, engage with each other. This is much more than just, a presentation. This is very much a community effort as well. Secondly, if you're communicating in the chat, there's a little blue bar, and right now it might say panelists. You want that to say panelists and attendees. So everybody that's watching the webinar can respond to you and see what you're saying. And if you've already written, you might notice that it's sent to panelists. You can feel free to just resend it to everybody. Secondly, I'm going to launch this poll right now. You don't have to do it right now. Whenever you want to respond, feel free. And let's get into these questions. So Robin, I'm going to keep the mic with you. First of all, can you give an overview of what campaigns and initiatives, events that you're planning for the remainder of the calendar year?
Yeah, well, Dan, thanks. I was glad I had this in advance. The rest of the year will be anticlimactic because we just recovered from our biggest giving day ever. We celebrated the Day of Giving in late October, and for the big schools, this won't seem like much, but we broke the $1 million mark, and it was a 50% increase over last year's total. Our Bryant Fund team they are the strategists, they're the concept people, they're behind this, but they know, and they tell us that they couldn't do it without our alumni engagement team. So big shout out to my team. They work side by side on all the social media, the emails, the messaging, the training, and the execution. So one of the things, having done that, we are always balancing with the Bryant Fund, because we do share our social media streams, and the university is sometimes a little bit reluctant to send out the fundraising messages. So those go through the alumni lines. We want to make sure that we balance that I just reviewed our statistics from our giving day. And although we had a higher than usual unsubscribe rate, luckily we make sure those emails are categorized so they're not subscribing to everything. But overall, they had a 23% open rate, which I thought was pretty good. So we're really still coming off that. The gifts ended up finishing the processing was this last week. So we're moving forward. I guess my team is working with Giving Tuesday and some other things. So it has been heavy fundraising because I think, as Josh said, I mean, we're in a partnership with University Advancement. So the executive director of development sits right next to the office next to me. So we have to work together. We love it.
That's great. Awesome. Joshua, how about for you? What is, can you talk a little bit about some of the campaigns, initiatives, events you've got planned for the rest of the calendar year?
Sure. Yeah. So unlike my good friend Robin here, we're actually going to be building to our first ever giving day in the spring. So a lot of our engagement that's going to be taking place right now is really just trying to create data points for affinity growing. Some of the things that at least I've been kind of working on, at least we're trying to finish up, is we started this new what we call sitting series. So all of us are sitting here in this this whole digital space. What we're doing is probably not the most healthiest for our bodies. So we're working with our partners across campus and our campus recreation department to create a couple of 15-minute segments that we can share on Facebook, or we just do a live stream where we just do common stretches, some simple exercises, but really just giving our viewers and our constituents something that they can take that can benefit them in the season. Another thing that we're doing is also building some collateral. Now that we cannot be as physical as we like to be, what we're trying to do is be more purposeful with what we're trying to create. So we're redoing an alumni association video, which we haven't done before, which is really content driven to drive excitement and energy and attention to the alumni association, so they could take advantage of their benefits as well as stay engaged. And then we also created a video submission contest here, where we're trying to get our alumni to send their well wishes to our undergraduates that are getting ready to graduate in the fall. Typically in the past, that's something that they could do physically by attending graduation, but now we're just trying to create something that has a little bit longer shelf life. And really just kind of pivoting to a digital format for some things, as far as just more communication with our newsletters and gearing up for Giving Tuesday in the first week of December.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. Liz, how about for you? What's the rest of this calendar year look like as far as campaigns and initiatives go?
So at first, I'm excited to share that from an event perspective, we've had to pivot, right? This is the word of 2020. We've had to pivot a bunch of times because 2020 is the 150th anniversary of the Penn State Alumni Association. So we actually had some really, really grand plans for how we were going to celebrate the anniversary. And of course, things change. So tonight we are actually having a celebration of our 150th anniversary virtually. And it kind of all came together really, really nice as a partnership within our Division of Development and Alumni Relations at the university. There is an annual event called the Renaissance Fund Dinner. The Renaissance Fund raises money for scholarships at the university and recognizes an honoree every year. And this year, it's the first time ever that the Renaissance Fund has had an honoree that is not an individual, but instead is recognizing the Alumni Association for the support that we, as an organization, as we give back to the university. And we have, there's a fundraising initiative in conjunction with this dinner. And so the Alumni Association has agreed to match gifts to the Renaissance Fund scholarship up to a certain amount. And so it's a really successful fundraising effort. And so I'm excited to see how many people join the virtual event tonight. And so that should be exciting. And from a campaign perspective, we have a Cyber Monday campaign that we do for membership. And sorry, my son is coming and asking me to log him onto a Zoom class. How about that? 2020, right?
This is life at home.
I know, right? we do a Cyber Monday campaign for membership, and this is going to be the 5th year that we've done it. And we offer our memberships at 50% off the base price. For it started off being just life memberships. And then a couple years ago, we added annual memberships into the mix. And so we will have a pre-sale for existing annual members where they have the opportunity to upgrade to a life membership early or to renew their annual membership at half price. And we kick that off on this coming Sunday, the 22nd. That goes for a week. And then on Monday, the 30th, on Cyber Monday, it's open to the rest of our alumni population, the general public, our alumni association. Our membership is open to anybody. You don't have to be an alum. And so really looking forward to that. We'll have a series of emails that go out to over 400,000 alumni. And so, we hope that this, as it has in past years, is a boost to our membership numbers here at the end of the calendar year.
For sure. So you've definitely got your hands full, both at home and on the campaign calendar.
Thank you.
I can relate. I've got a toddler of my own. Sim, can you talk a little bit about campaigns and initiatives for the rest of the year, and then kind of along those same lines, anything around Cyber Monday or Giving Tuesday or even the holidays? Can you talk a little bit about those two things?
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing I have to say on here, I saw that one of my colleagues is on this call as well. So hi, Haley, I'm going to call you out from this one. So we just restarted our alumni town hall session, which is really a way for our faculty, staff, students, and alumni to get a very almost one-on-one conversation going with important individuals on campus. So for instance, we've had our provost come on with 3 professors that have been able to talk about what are the struggles that they're going through as a teacher, going from a small classroom size where you see these students every single day, you know who they are by a first name basis, and now everything's virtual, which we've never done before. Additionally, then we look at our enrollment. So we have our VP of enrollment who's going to be coming on next and being able to talk about, hey, what does it look like in the next couple of years, next couple of months, when we look at how do we bring some of these students back that have deferred? How do we encourage some of these students who have only had a virtual experience to stay on with retention, et cetera? So this town hall is a new continuation. We started at the beginning when people were unsure of, are we going to be virtual? Are we going to be hybrid? And now we've transitioned it into, okay, we have sort of a routine coming up. Here's what we're getting ready for spring. For Giving Tuesday, again, we're working very closely with our Office of Annual Giving on how can we bring about the most impact while also being kind of considerate, given the fact that this is a pandemic. Our focus really is on the resiliency of Puget Sound. We've been here for 100+ years. We've seen 2 world wars, we've seen a depression, we've seen a recession. Puget Sound is still here and still thriving, and we want our alumni to come back and to feel that as well. If it means that you're able to contribute and you're able to be a part of Giving Tuesday, great, perfect, wonderful. That's what we want to see, and that's what we want to help to be able to keep our university alive and thriving. If you can't, due to COVID, it's not the right time, something is wrong, great. Join us then in showing what makes Puget Sound so special for you. Is it your experience here? Is it the fact that you're a legacy and that your grandparents have been here and that we're all loggers in this together? So our Giving Tuesday is focused not only on the element of bringing in those funds, which are needed across higher education, but then also keeping them engaged of, if you can't give right now, we understand, because this is something that no one really saw coming. How do we keep you going? How do we keep you engaged and part of this process overall?
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Liz, you talked a little bit about Cyber Monday. Are you doing anything around Giving Tuesday? And if so, what does that look like?
We are. So this is actually the sixth year that Penn State is participating in Giving Tuesday, and it's run through our Office of Annual Giving, which is where my former position at the university was. So I was there when we originally kicked it off, and it was a really small effort then. It has grown into a pretty massive effort now. So there's an opportunity for all of our different fundraising units around the university to participate and have their own individual program. So if you were to go to the Giving Tuesday page for Penn State, there are all sorts of different projects that you could support across the university. Some of them are programs, some of them are scholarships. The Alumni Association has had a project for the last several years, and this is the second or third year that our project has been focused on raising money to purchase memberships for students from underrepresented populations. And so, because we do have a very active student membership program in the Alumni Association called the Blue and White Society. And so last year we raised enough money in our specific project in the larger Penn State Giving Tuesday effort to purchase over 600 memberships for students from underrepresented populations. So we're really excited to be doing that again, and to give students who might otherwise not be able to afford a membership, be able to be part of the great organization that the Penn State Alumni Association is.
That's fantastic. One quick question for you, Liz, that came out of the chat. What is the cost to join the Penn State Alumni Association?
Sure. So our base prices for an individual is $50 for an annual membership and $700 for a like membership. So then during our Cyber Monday campaign, it's 50% off those base prices. So in certain circumstances, we have some discounted prices like recent grads. So if you've graduated within the last 5 years, we have a discounted membership. It's $39. But when we're doing a sale, we always do the discount on the base price.
For sure. Thank you for elaborating. Joshua, I'm going to hand the mic to you. Can you talk a little bit about Cyber Monday, Giving Tuesday, any other special initiatives for the holidays, and what do those look like specifically?
Sure. Well, with a team our size, one of the things that we're really trying to drive is just data points that we can really just help our annual giving and our major gift officers in this time. I was kind of looking through some of the questions that are coming through the chat, and we're like, hey, how do you avoid like the opt-out melt and the Zoom fatigue and the digital breakdown? And one of those ways that we're doing it in reflection to Giving Tuesday is like, in that lead up to Giving Tuesday, university advancement, those are the only messages that we're really going to be sharing. So, we know, after Thanksgiving through Giving Tuesday, it is going to be Giving Tuesday. And that's really a collaborative, adventure that we're really doing with stewardship, annual giving, and alumni relations to ensure that we don't bombard them. Another thing that we're doing really through the holiday season is really rebuffering our alumni newsletter, because that is really like the last formal communication that we'll have before the holidays. And we already have some things that are already built in as far as just happy birthdays and happy New Year's and happy holidays, depending on what type of segmentation that they fall in. But just really understanding that we just try to make sure that the data points that we try to collect, that they're going to be really worthwhile in the long run. And then lastly, we've been really fortunate as a university to partner with a local merchandise company that's actually owned and operated by an alum who has hired some alum to really create a collaborative partnership with our athletic department. And so now what we're doing as far as holiday gifts, treats, and all types of accessories, we're really pushing that message too. So we could have went some other different ways with that as far as what we wanted to share, but knowing that, a lot of our fans that would typically come during the holiday season for our men's and women's basketball are not going to be able to attend because of capacity restrictions. This is one way that we could drive attention back to that, as well as provide some type of tangible benefit and keep people thinking about the university throughout the holidays.
That's fantastic. Absolutely. Robin, how about for you? Are you doing anything for Cyber Monday, Giving Tuesday, the holidays?
Yeah, actually, some of this jogged my memory, but we're involved in Giving Tuesday, but it's a pretty light touch because of the big giving day. I mean, everybody's a little bit overwhelmed by that, but we're continuing on with end of year programming. I mean, working with university relations, of course, there'll be videos from the president for Thanksgiving and some other things. We have had all year long a Be Bryant Strong campaign, which has been related to our COVID-19 relief efforts. We had a 94% occupancy rate this last semester on campus. Our positivity rate was under 0.1%. The kids did an amazing job. We had, everything was virtual, half in, half out of the classroom. None of our classes are larger than 35 students, so it was possible to do, but all of that cost millions. So that was really, has been the focus, and that's going to continue through the end of the year. We're thanking people, but we're still going to be in the same boat in the spring, and we know it. So that's coming up. Little things. Josh reminded me, I mean, our Student Alumni Association markets lots of great swag for our alumni during the holidays. We're a real mail house here. I'm actually on campus, but most of my staff is remote. So we kind of take turns coming in, and it seems like we're always running up to the post office. So lots of outreach. We are, and I'm sure every other school is doing this too. On Thursday, we'll be tasting Pinot Noirs with one of our alums who's a wine expert, getting people ready for Thanksgiving and the holidays. And, I was assigned the French, the Argentinian, and the, what other country? Some other, I think Australia. So I'm going to have to open 3 bottles on Thursday.
Oh, that sounds terrible. I feel so bad for you. So Robin, kind of staying with you, how are you balancing your efforts to engage your alumni with your fundraising advancement efforts, as we're heading into the end of the year?
Yeah, well, we want to make sure that those channels I mentioned, that we share the same channels. So we want to make sure that we're balancing that. We also have our a newsletter. The magazine has been halted during this whole time. I mean, was one of the cuts that was they decided to make, since I have a quarterly, like 12-page newsletter that they are using. So it's I would say it's partnerships and sharing. Part of my strategic plan is supporting the fundraising initiative. So it's not really anything too different from business as usual, I'd say. So I'll pass the mic to somebody who might have more going on.
For sure. Yeah, I'm actually going to hand it over to Joshua. So can you talk a little bit about, I know you're taking a quick drink. Can you talk a little bit about, how you're balancing those efforts to engage your alumni in conjunction with your fundraising and advancement efforts?
Absolutely. Well, I think we should all kind of back up and think about, how life really was in March, right? Where things started to adjust. And I'm sure it's similar to many institutions that are on this call. We started to hear about the bills that we were incurring and the money that was giving back and the money that didn't come in. And so I think that's an environment that everyone is very well familiar with. So I think the conversation of the need is, I'm not going to say overkill at this point, but everybody knows that we're at a need, right? And so the balance really has been, how do we communicate the need in a meaningful way, but still really try to keep people, engaged. And honestly, to tell you the truth, it's really just been, alumni relations really working very closely with Annual Giving, our largest communicator from university advancement, to try to juggle, when is appropriate to say what, and making sure that our social media calendars are aligned, our email calendars are aligned. And then we kind of made some general rules for ourselves internally. We just got in a meeting a few weeks ago, and we said, hey, for the next 3 months, given the circumstances that we have that's outside of our control, we're not going to communicate more than 3 times, via email for our university advancement office. We're going to try to keep it between 3 and 6. If it has to creep up past 5, we got to have a really, really good reason. And so, we want to give ourselves the leeway to be flexible as possible, but at the same time, we're marking these things as far as the unsubscribes and, and all these data points that we don't want. I think I can't stress it enough how important data is in this time, because now we're starting to see, like, okay, from an engagement standpoint of a book club, as some had mentioned in the chat, as great as that is and as empowering that is, hey, we get, X% more through a group, through a book club, but then we get 10 times more in the next unsubscribe. So we have to be able to have those very intimate and honest conversations with ourselves to say, hey, in this season, is it worth it? You know, and if it is worth it, then let's go ahead and do it. And if it's not, you know, is it something that we could wait? And then ultimately just maximizing on the pillars that are always on your calendar is one thing that we try to make sure that we do here at UC Upstate. In what I would mention earlier about our alumni newsletter. In the past, it was really alumni centric on the things that we can control. Now it's some more things that are a little bit further with athletics, partnering with athletics, some other points around campus to ensure that, hey, this is important, but if we put this more into our alumni newsletter that we know is a staple that comes out every quarter, this is something that they can sink their teeth into and have something that's a little bit longer, has a longer shelf life.
For sure. Yeah, I think that shelf life is huge. Liz, you know, on your side, what does it look like for you? Again, it's, you know, obviously a lot of this, you know, falls kind of under your purview. How are you finding that balance, or striking that balance rather, between engaging the alumni and fundraising and advancement?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I love that our Alumni Association really kind of picked up and ran with opportunities to engage people from a virtual perspective pretty early on in our, you know, work from home status back in March. And so, you know, we've continued opportunities to do that. We have multiple virtual events on a weekly basis. We have things that are more like, you know, virtual speaker series. We have things that are, and those are focusing on faculty and different topics of, you know, things that they are researching at the university. We have a coffee hour with our CEO, Paul Clifford, every week, and that's usually with an alum who's doing really cool things, you know, in their career, in their life, how they, you know, how Penn State impacted the trajectory that they took after graduation. And so there's a lot of engagement there that is reaching people who wouldn't necessarily have actually come to in-person events. And so I think that the engagement level is phenomenal. I do agree with I've seen some of the comments come through with some of the Zoom fatigue with, if people are on Zoom meetings all day for work, what makes us think that people are going to want to, join a Zoom webinar at 6 p.m., and so, we have to balance all of that out, and then on the flip side, we are still trying to fundraise. We are still trying to grow our membership. And so there are opportunities, more so I think than ever, to inject something about supporting students at the university, about becoming a member, about how programs like this are supported by your membership in the Penn State Alumni Association. And so there are, I would say, more subtle ways that we are able to continue the focus on fundraising, advancement, membership, in the new virtual things that we are doing. And so it's not really as in your face. But we're reaching a lot of people, I would say, who are probably not members also. And then one last thing I wanted to share is that we have a monthly newsletter that is one of our Alumni Association membership benefits. It's an e-newsletter. We did for a period of time, and I think it was like through the summer, we actually had a segment that went to our member population. We also had a segment that went to our non-members. So to help them feel included at a time where things were just crazy and up in the air and unknown for a lot of people, and had a message in there that said, and it was stated so much more eloquently than the way I'm about to say it, but it was basically, typically this is something that just our members get, but we wanted to kind of make you feel like you're a part of this and that you get to experience this. So I think that having opportunities to include language like that into things, probably in the long run helps our efforts from the membership growth perspective too.
Absolutely. Sam, on your side, how are you balancing those efforts? Again, alumni versus fundraising and advancement.
Yeah, so we'll take a look at it from what we're doing internally and then how that sort of comes out as a result afterwards. So internally, it was a big challenge for us to take a look at, well, what are we doing with our virtual events and how does that necessarily tie over to what we could be doing with fundraising initiatives? Because for us, we were actually finding that we're getting more new views and alumni that are actually coming back because some of these events were virtual and that they could attend these from someplace like Idaho, where normally, unless we have a presidential trip going there, we just don't do all that much with them. So we're seeing that they're coming in as like, okay, well, now we have their attention. How can we really expand upon that? And so one of the things that we have in our office between our donor relations, annual giving, and APR is the constituent engagement group, which really decided, okay, well, all these have different types of events that are going on. How can we make sure that we're all on the same page? And so we'll have a liaison, for instance, from annual giving, working with alumni parent relations when we're developing a new event to come up. So what that then results in, if we take a look at an event, we had a professor emeritus that was very, very well loved during her time on campus. And we had about 100 to 120 alumni show up for that event. We then talked about, at the end of that, the Puget Sound Fund of this is what your dollars, what your donations go towards. And this is an example where you could put your money towards. Within that Puget Sound Fund, there's really 6 buckets, if you will, of where you can put a non-restricted gift that will impact what we're doing. So we have a COVID response. If you said, I just feel so bad for what our students are having to go through, how can I help? How can I make sure that they're all prepared? But another one is faculty support. So right there, our alumni and our students are able to see, here's the work that's going on at Puget Sound by a well-respected professor who I love hearing for, and now I can support that faculty member. So we're able to create that engagement with a new group of alumni who, might not have been able to come to one of our in-person events, see this, and then see, oh, here is my direct way to then be able to make my contribution or to be able to make an effect. And within our Puget Sound Fund, we have a variety of different things trying to really capture our individuality at Puget Sound. That's a big mainstay within our culture, is that it's very much of, we want to give back to the university, but I want to give back in my own special way or something that I feel really important. So they can do the COVID response, there's scholarship opportunities, ways to be able to support faculty, student life. And then for us, we also have our campus enrichment, which really looks at, how can we keep the university just looking so pretty as it does. And I hope everyone gets a chance to see my background here with that. But that's really what we're doing, is how can we take these opportunities with new alumni, incorporate fundraising in a way that seems like, okay, yeah, I should be expecting to get this kind of an ask, but that isn't so blunt, if you will, of we need your support, because we don't want to create that essence that Puget Sound is going out of business, which we're not, but that we don't want to create that fear factor. And instead this is really the value add that you can have with these types of virtual events. And then we'll eventually take that into in-person events in 2021 or 2.
Definitely. Some point in 2021. So another question, Sam, staying with you, what does year-end planning look like, at your organization? How do you collaborate effectively with your team? And then, additionally, how do you find success in cross-departmental collaboration, especially right now with us being mostly remote?
Well, I'll just say that the team that I work on is very close-knit. Right now, it's a group of 5 of us with 2 positions that we need to fill as well. So, we talk every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We even have an element of on Fridays, hey, let's just relax. No work today. What are you doing? How is everything happening for, your personal stuff? Are you doing okay? So for us, that sort of internal dialogue is really close. And I think that allows us to be able to work very, very efficiently. For us, year end is really putting a lot of weight behind our town halls and making sure that we have our staff, our faculty, students, and parents well informed of this is what it's going to look like. Here's what we're expecting. Here's what you can expect. We're not trying to hide anything. This is where we're at, and we're still in this decision-making process. Additionally, taking a look at sort of what worked and what didn't. We've seen from certain events that there is a low retention rate and a low attendance rate, such as like trivia nights. They just haven't really hit for us. But for things like professor lectures, or another example is that we had what we called the Battle for the Soul of America, which was a presidential historian and political science professor, and they talked for 7 series on where we are in the election process all the way up until November 5th. And it was very well attended, and the retention rate was good on it. So, okay, we see that we have these kinds of buildings. How can we expand off of that? And then also start incorporating the different departments on campus that we know we're going to get a lot of backing behind. We don't necessarily have great success when we just say, hey, come and do this event because there's alumni here. But we do find that we have really, really good success when we say, hey, come and join this Chem and Bio alumni chat, or this Chem and Bio professor lecture with an alumni chat afterwards. So looking at what did we do well, where can we really expand on our programming to make it holistic and include the different departments, and then see, okay, well, what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong? And then looking at where are our people going? Are they saying, yeah, we want more academic focused events? Great, that's what you're going to get. If we want, some more community-based events, okay, how can we incorporate that? And where do we go wrong with things like trivia versus a yoga series? Oh, it needs to be interactive more so than I stare at my screen and I watch, the questions come through.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's so interesting. And I think that idea of getting granular with your meetups or your kind of segmentation is super interesting. Liz, handing the mic over to you. What does end of year planning look like for you? Obviously, you're the largest organization that we've got on the panel today, so you've got a lot more layers and a lot more people involved. So how do you collaborate effectively as a team, and then how do you find success in that cross-departmental collaboration?
Sure. One thing that I love to brag about with our membership team in the Alumni Association is that it's not just people who report to me. And so on a regular basis, all year round, every year, we have a cross-collaborative membership team. And so that, I think, really sets us up for success, whether it's for calendar year end, fiscal year end, or any other, campaign point during the year. We have members of our marketing communications team on our membership team, as well as members of our project management team and our student and young alumni team. And so we really kind of have our membership tentacles into every part of the Alumni Association. So that's just really kind of internal to the Alumni Association. But if we, looking at how we work with our colleagues outside of the Alumni Association, and especially with the big Cyber Monday campaign, we've been better over the years about involving our directors of alumni relations. So those are positions that are embedded in all of the different fundraising units. And we work with them to provide basically a toolkit. It's kind of an electronic toolkit, but it's FAQs about the campaign. It's our social media schedule, when we're posting, so that they know that they can go from their social media channels, say it's the College of Health and Human Development, can go and like something or share something that the Alumni Association posted and put their own little twist on it about alumni of Health and Human Development becoming members of the Alumni Association and pushing it out to their audiences. And so really the efforts that we have grow exponentially with the tools that we're able to provide to our colleagues throughout our division. We also share all of our information, and we probably don't do this as much as we should year round, but when it comes to larger campaigns, we do share information with our fundraising colleagues, especially with our leadership gift officers, they're focusing on gifts in the $2,500 to $10,000 range, and talking to people who may or may not be members of the Alumni Association, give them the tools to, if they don't close on a gift during a certain, during a certain meeting or series of meetings, that maybe their first step to getting somebody involved is having them become a member of the Alumni Association. So we do share a lot of that information with our colleagues throughout the division. And then we also share that, I would say kind of even reaching further, share that same toolkit with our Alumni Association volunteers. And so they are also kind of boots on the ground, getting the word out, especially at this time of year when we're doing some of these big campaigns. And that includes both Cyber Monday and Giving Tuesday.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, that communication is so foundational to, being able to collaborate effectively. Joshua, how about for you? What does this end of the year look like as far as planning goes? Secondly, how are you collaborating with your team and finding that cross-departmental effectiveness?
Sure. Well, at the end of the year, really, or at least, I don't know, let me just say that I think we should all just lead with grace when it comes to planning, because I think a famous person said that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? And we've had a lot of our plans really pivot based on just the circumstances outside of our control. So now what it really is looking like for us is that the holiday season is going to be where a lot of our projects are going to be coming into conclusion. I had mentioned several of those video projects that we're doing before, and we're starting to wrap up some other series for our virtual engagement. But now we're just kind of in planning mode in regards to how we're going to try to do something different in 2021. So one of the biggest things for us at this season is we're able to successfully complete our Alumni Awards selection process, which is something that we have been continually building upon. At least in last year, we had one of the biggest community enhancing outgoing neighborhood bashes of all time in Spartanburg. And I'm just so like, I'm mad because we wanted to do that times 10 again this year, and knowing that we can't do it in the way that we want to, we're going to try to find the most meaningful way that we could celebrate our awardees. So a lot of that planning will be taking place during these winter months, and hopefully at the beginning of the new year, we'll have the bandwidth and the avenue to execute, hopefully for a homecoming that will take place at the end of March. And then collaboration amongst our partners right now, I think, like I said, grace and gratitude. And so we're trying to find compelling ways to say thanks, compelling ways to say that we're grateful for what we have, and then capture those messages and share it again, and share it from the standpoint of our faculty and staff that are very fortunate to be here doing what we get to do, our students that be able to take advantage of a great learning opportunity, and then the community as a whole that our alumni choose to live and serve. So we're just finding unique ways to do that. In the past, we've kind of collaborated with the city to be a participant in the holiday parades. We've kind of had our banners, amongst the town, in preparation for homecoming, because for those, granted, not everybody lives in the South, and yes, football is a very prominent thing, but for schools that do not have football, we tend to, work to our advantage and do it in the spring. So in the wintertime, we're really trying to gear up for that. So now that we've just recently internally have decided that we want to create more opportunities for our alumni and constituents at large to give later on in 2021. We want to be an integral force in that. And so, that looks like, okay, how does that alter our communication? That'll probably, make me look back as far as how many times we're going to communicate via email. And also too, we're working a little bit closer with our university marketing and communications to ensure that, hey, when there are stories and there are messages that we can share for our alumni community, that we're sharing it in appropriate time, but then also not creating an overkill too.
Love that. Yeah, absolutely. Robin, handing it over to you. How does this cross-departmental collaboration look like on your side?
Yeah, well, this is fascinating. I'm actually watching the chat so closely. It's like
Yeah.
there's a lot of good stuff going on. You know, again, we're a pretty small department overall. University advancement has fewer than 50 people in it. I don't know that that's the post-COVID count. We had some strongly recommended early retirements. Yeah, they couldn't force people out, but boy, they made it attractive. And, you know, one of the things we certainly, before I talk a little bit about what we're doing at the end of the year, somebody asked about revenue streams, and you know, we usually bring in a revenue stream that doubles my events budget. Of course, there is no revenue stream. We haven't felt that we could charge for any of our webinars, our wine tastings, our beer tastings, our, you know, whatever we're doing. But we have had some success with partnerships with sponsorships. So some of the things that we've moved online, we have a pandemic series, you know, banking finance that uses faculty. I see a lot of that in the chat. Our faculty webinars have been very well attended. We also have a women's leadership series and sponsors for that. So money coming in. I didn't mention before, and because a lot of people do both alumni and parents, I had to figure out how to do my parents council recruitment. Actually tomorrow at the end of the day, I'm having an event starting at 4:30 where, you know, we invited all of our parents who are rated at $50,000 and above. And we've got 50 or so people on the call with some of my current parents council members as well as the president. So I felt that was a pretty good. Three of us have used the word pivot now from what would have been a breakfast. And so, you know, we had to go in that direction. But if I don't replenish the pipeline of parents council members, I'm going to miss one of my metrics. And I know we're going to talk later about metrics. I know we are planning some end of year get-togethers, probably all virtually because the numbers are rising in Rhode Island, and I think it'll be impossible for us to get together in person. But we would have been planning really seriously for a June reunion. Our reunion was supposed to be in October. We moved it to June. We thought, no problem. I don't know. You know, I have no idea if I'm going to be able to do that. So I've told my team this morning on our huddle that we'll decide that in January. So I took out the lead story from the next issue of my newsletter, and I'm pushing it back a little bit. You know, hopefully we can plan it, and if we have to plan it quickly, we will. But you know, I tell you, we're nimble, and we're always rethinking things. So it's part of the job, and everybody's been really, you know, really upbeat and really good-hearted about it too. I think we know. I mean, Josh, you've used the word grace and gratitude, and those are wonderful words. I mean, we feel we're grateful that we're doing as well as we are at the university, that we have our jobs, and we're grinding it out. So another G word there. I love alliteration.
Yeah, and I think another good word that would apply is agile. You know,
Yeah.
being able to jump around. So we have 7 minutes left. So we are going to lightning round the next few questions. Panelists, 20 seconds or less. I'm going to give you these questions. We're going to fire through them. Okay. Secondly, to the folks that are watching, if you have not taken the poll yet, feel free to do that. It's going to close in a couple minutes. Feel free to pop your answers in there. Okay. First question, 20 seconds or less. How has your year-end strategy shifted as a result of COVID-19 or other challenges we've faced in 2020? Robin, you want to start us off?
I just jumped up to get, everybody's been talking about their virtual 5Ks. So this was I finished it. So
Love it.
We had to look really quickly at our strategic plan. We measure everything, and that's something I know we'd hope to talk about today. I'm looking at those measurements. You know what? It's like pin the tail on the donkey. I'm hoping that what I'm putting out there are things we can hit, but it all has to do with recruiting mentors, you know, getting people engaged, moving them from 2 activities to 3 a year. We'll see. You know, I'm hoping that nobody holds me too tightly to it.
For sure, most definitely. Joshua, how about you? How has your year-end strategy shifted as a result of COVID or other challenges faced in 2020?
I don't even need 20 seconds. If it's not going to add value to either the alumni or our office, it's going to be put on the back burner. If we could pick up the phone and make that meaningful contact, we'd rather just do that, whether it's a text or just going on Instagram. Everything else, we just try to use it sparingly and just keep everything going.
Love it. Liz, how about you?
Oh, I couldn't find my unmute button, sorry. So I think that took away like 3 of my seconds. But, a big thing that we did this year was halt a number of the direct mail pieces that we normally would have done earlier in the fiscal year, just because with things shifting, with not knowing, over the summer when we were planning for something, not knowing what the plan was for students to come back, like, are we soliciting parents to purchase memberships for their students or to become members themselves? So we put a lot of our direct mail efforts on hold because there's so much of a longer planning period for those. And so we've done so much more from an electronic communication perspective for our members. And now we are looking at our numbers and saying, hey, this has actually really impacted us. So now it's causing us to think, beyond the end of the calendar year into the start of the new calendar year to say, what do we need to do? Because, as much as we love free electronic communications, direct mail always has a better response rate.
Definitely. And Sam, how about you?
Yeah, so I'll join the pivot group and say that we're going to look at how can we pivot and sort of right the ship. We have a commencement that's going to be coming up where we're going to have 2 years on back-to-back days. How do we get that to happen? How is that going to look? How we're going to bring these people back? Same thing with our reunion years. We have 2 different reunion groups. Granted, only a year separated, so they're going to be close. They're going to know each other. How are we going to make that happen? What does that look like? And sort of get back onto the track of these are the things that you can expect, and this is back to the core of what we do and what you all love.
Love it. Succinct. Last question I'm going to ask. Organizations have faced a lot of cuts to staff and budget this year. Y'all were talking about it in the chat, and most are limited in terms of funding and time. So in light of this, what is the most impactful thing that you can do to close out the year strong? Sam, kick us off with this.
I think it would definitely be to leverage your alumni base and see what they're ready to do and willing to offer. We talk a lot in higher education about time, talent, and treasure, right? It doesn't have to be, I can either get their time or I can get their treasure. Use this as an opportunity to engage both. We just had a town hall where we have alumni that came out and said, I want to help students. What can I do? Use that time. Find those opportunities for them and make them your biggest ally. So then not only can they expand what you're able to do as an office, but that it's true and that it supports your students and that it feels organic.
Love that. Liz, how about you? What's the most impactful thing that you can do to close out the year strong?
I think, with things that we're doing is really utilizing our volunteers to the greatest extent that we possibly can. Kind of going back to, I know we have a big alumni base, we have a big membership base, but we, that kind of boots on the ground grassroots effort really goes far, especially in a time where people are, they may be forced to make a decision between this or that. And so having those volunteers helping us make personal connections so that the communication, while maybe broad coming from the Alumni Association or from the university or from development, is personalized more with the help of our volunteers.
Love that. Joshua, how about you?
Keeping it brief, meeting them where they're at. One thing that we've been looking at is finding, who those are active on social media, whether it's a comment, sharing, and then going directly to their feed and say, hey, responding to what they like. And then finding those unique opportunities to tie back to university's mission. And then ultimately, if there's not there, try to create one, throwing out questions and then looking forward to getting the answer back. And a lot of times, just kind of how Sam said, when people raise their hand, be ready to respond. Be ready to respond. And if you don't have a course of action, be open and honest about it. And then ask them to walk alongside you to figure it out.
Love that. And Robin, take us home.
I was going to come up with just 4 words: collaboration, breaking down barriers. Those are key for us. We've also used this time to really clean up our act. It's everybody has a little bit of time to really put things in order. So we're looking at this as a real silver lining. We've learned a lot, gotten a lot of new people we're working with because there are no barriers. So we'll break down even more barriers in the new year.
I love that. Sorry we didn't get to all of the Q&A questions. We got to some of them. We ran out of time here. Thank you everyone for joining today. Panelists, you are all amazing. If anyone wants further information or you need to be connected or get info on the chat, you can reach out to me directly, dan@cuseum.com, or you can shoot a note to hello@cuseum.com. We're happy to help. Panelists, so wise. Fantastic. Good luck with the rest of your year. To all of our attendees, good luck. Close it out strong and stay safe, everybody. Thanks for being here.